Democrats ignorantly say this is in the Constitution, separation of church and state, and they don't know what it means, and they think that that means you can't talk about God. Well, if there really is this separation of church and state like they believe it means, well, then what is Ilhan doing with her hijab on? I mean, why is she able to go in there with that? I mean, why aren't they shouting that from the rooftop?
Fellas, is it separation of church and state if we ask people to take off their hijabs? Like, Mary, girl, come on. Listen, I know this is an old clip. Just bear with. I have new information on the Christian nationalism front. But first, I want to set the stage a little bit. I want to preface the information I'm going to give you, because it's important to understand how they get people confused about Christian nationalism, about the U.S. being a Christian nation and the separation of church and state, so that they can start to do things like what I'm going to tell you a little bit later in the video. But they really, really do want to get people confused, like this man here.
Don't let anybody tell us that this is not a Christian country. It is.
Is a Jewish person going to burn in hell? Yes or no?
Jesus said, I am the way and the truth and the life.
So yes.
So which one?
You're saying yes? You're saying yes? Yes?
You're framing me.
You're saying it's a Christian nation. So everyone who is not Christian, they're basically being told they're going to burn in hell. That means that the nation that they live in believes that people that don't believe in their religion are burning in hell. That's a really big thing to say.
They confuse people about what Christian nationalism is, make them think that you're proud to be a Christian and this country was founded on Christian principles. And anyone who tells you that Christian nationalism is bad, they want to eradicate Christianity. They want to persecute you for being a Christian, when that's not true at all. That's not even what the separation of church and state means. And then you end up with people defending a position that's not being attacked. And you end up with situations like January 6th, with people blindly believing that they need to do something about what's happening when nothing is happening.
White Christian nationalism fuses Christianity with a rigid view of civic life, a view that true Americans are white, native-born, and conservative. On January 6th, it was the connective tissue that tied disparate groups together and propelled them to action. It's infecting our government, from members of Congress and top officials in the previous administration to the wife of a Supreme Court justice whose messages to the president's chief of staff leading up to the insurrection smacked of white Christian nationalism. Thankfully, good Americans, people of faith and non-believers, are standing up to this violent ideology. I call on members of Congress to educate themselves about white Christian nationalism and reaffirm the separation of church and state.
So while everyone's busy defending Christianity from an attack that's not happening, they're slipping new things into the government that have to do with Christianity. Take a look at this.
So Tennessee is making everybody get new license plates this year, and you have two standard options. You can get "In God We Trust" or without it. And when they asked me, I immediately said no, because I have an aversion to Christian nationalism, and they gave me a very weird look, and it was super awkward. But that's not what I want to talk about. Initially, I didn't think much of it because the "In God We Trust" is really small, but then I discovered this. The numbers and letters are reversed on the license plate depending on which one you chose. If you choose to have "In God We Trust," numbers come first and letters come second. But if you choose not to have it, it's reversed.
Now, when questioned about why they were doing this, Tennessee said, well, it's so we can, accommodate all the different drivers. We have different combinations, and that way we can accommodate every single person who needs plates for their car. But that girl ran the math, and when you run the math, you find that the math doesn't add up, and they have plenty of combinations without having a need to switch up the letters and the numbers. Now, this may not seem like a very big deal. It's like, well, who cares? They're changing the letters and the numbers on the license plate. It's just a way to organize plates. But this wasn't a random decision. This was intentional. Not to mention, Tennessee is one of the most conservative Christian states in the U.S. And by ordering letters and numbers based on if you got "In God We Trust" on your license plate, seems like a really easy, convenient way to discriminate against people on the road if you're an officer. Again, it's just license plates. It's just in one state. It doesn't seem like a big deal, except when you add up the fact that the government is promoting Christian nationalism coming from some politicians. Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, claims to be a Christian nationalist, and a proud one at that, and thinks that it's a good idea for people to be and to be proud of being Christian nationalists. And in a country where we have freedom of religion, allegedly, being able to discriminate against individuals who don't subscribe to that particular religion seems like a horrible, scary snowball effect, especially with the recent rise in crime, violent crime, against individuals who identify as not Christian, some other religion. Add on police brutality cases, and I wouldn't want to be caught dead in Tennessee with a license plate that didn't say "In God We Trust," knowing that the police officers could all see, based on the order of my license plate letters and numbers, that I choose not to identify as a Christian. There is nothing wrong with Christianity. There is nothing wrong with practicing Christianity. There's nothing wrong with being proud to be a Christian. But when the government starts labeling people based on whether they are a Christian or not, that's where I start to have a problem. It's just good to be aware of all the little things that start to add up. Because remember, like the old analogy says, if you boil a frog in water and you start slow and you start in tepid water, you can boil the frog alive. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to check out some of my content that isn't news or politics related, you can check out my personal YouTube channel at Bad Gamer Wyatt. And until then, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.